remember Granny Mata and my granny Ellen, about 2-3 weeks before herring would come, we would leave. We were living up in Narrows Arm, and we'd get in their big canoe and pack it up for a few days. You know, you just bring it's all you bring is tea and some, if you like, some salt or sugar or something like that. Everything else you just get it from the land. So
yeah.
And we got to in that time in Porpoise Bay, the big trees were right down to the water line. The beaches were white with sand yet before the logging companies made them into mud piles like they are now.
Right.
In those days, the Porpoise Bay was there like that, and all along here was kelps growing there, and the otter and them used to sit there, lay there with their babies, teaching them how to wash themselves and how to break things open on their chest. And underneath them, the perch and the rockcod and the shiners congregated underneath those kelp because that was their protection, eh? Yeah. That was their home. Well, we'd get there at low tide, and Granny would put a couple of half hitches around maybe a half a dozen heads of kelp. And she'd do that on two sides of the boat so that we'd be balanced. And then the tide would come in, and the rocks that hold them on the ground or on the bottom were still attached. Then we'd bring them over to Snake Bay and drop them there where the herring liked to spawn, so that they could spawn on the kelp.
Yeah. Because
we like eating the kelp with herring roe on it. And so we dropped them there, and the herring would come in and they would spawn all over them. Sometimes thick like that, just really thick, you know, because there was a lot of herring in those days. And then about 2 weeks after the herring were gone, we went and got those same kelps and brought them back and put them where we got them. I said, why can't we leave them there? The herring like them. We can't do that, they said. The otter use that for teaching their baby, and the shiners and the perch and the rockcod depend on that to hide away. So, So we brought them all back and planted them right back where we got them. Yeah. Well, I have a canoe club.
Yeah.
My Siwin Samsela, which means the spirit of our grandmothers. We just did a blessing ceremony for that on Sunday at Porpoise Bay Park. People came from quite far away, some of them.
Nice.
Yeah, so
and what was the ceremony for? Was it for the club itself, or was
for the canoe? Every year before we start the year off, we do a blessing ceremony for the canoe because we believe that the canoes are alive, and the pullers and the canoe need to be in touch with each other.
Pulling Together originated in 2001 as a project to enhance and improve the relationship of First Nations people and police. Pulling Together has visited well over 100 First Nations communities throughout British Columbia and back in Ontario.
So much of an analogy in life is the canoe family, pulling together, so to say, is we always have to pull our own weight.
The canoe doesn't move, you don't get to camp at night, you don't eat, you don't do anything without everybody pulling together.
When we put young people into canoes with RCMP or with VPD or with conservation, we give them opportunities to engage in dialogue and to actually work together, to pull together.
This year on the journey we have 23 canoes out there.
There's more than 300 and some odd participants.
We're up in the Shíshálh heading to Kamloops.
Awakening the Spirit, this year's theme, talks about the fact that the Xwu'p'a'lich are a canoe nation, and they forgot that for a long time. And it's time to wake up and start to realize that and to exercise their right to be on that water.
I was like skipping for the first time. Yeah. It's an experience I'll never forget the rest of my life.
Why is that?
I've never been near water. Now I'm starting to love water. I understand water now.
We have 5 communities, 5 Skookum communities that never had a big canoe. Now we have our own. So there's nothing stopping us from going out in this lake anytime we want to, or any of the lakes that are close in our area. And now that we've been out there, people will recognize us and know what's going on. Every time we stop and pull in somewhere, we're having more and more people joining us and greeting us on the beach.
Having a lot of fun on this trip, eh? Oh yeah. We like to show some of the new ones to have fun out there, you know. It's not all about putting the head down and just pulling forward, but talking to each other as you're going through the waters and getting to know people. I've had enough of this guy, man. I'm out of here.
There are so many activities going on. I especially enjoyed the karaoke. The storytelling is awesome. You get to hear different stories from a different culture other than your own. In the water, there's especially a lot of water fights. And to be able to cool yourself down but have fun at the same time.
And I've had people come up to me like, I had no idea that I'd be sitting there talking to a cop, and we have so much in common.
Very impressed, shock, awe, all that stuff.
When you're on a canoe and you work all day and you come off at the end of the day and you know that you've worked, and people are telling you you did a good job, you can't help but have a shift in attitude.
I try to sit with somebody different at supper time just to build those relationships too.
I really don't think I'd be sitting here if there wasn't a canoe. I wouldn't be an auxiliary constable with the RCMP if I can't thank the canoe for that.
For those that don't know, there's over 200 nations here in BC, and this has given us a chance to kind of get out to a lot of the more rural areas, and it really opens you up to understand what it really means to be a Canadian citizen. It's a lot more deeply rooted than what we've been told.
I want you to use your own imagination and travel to the land of the native.
This is the culture that our ancestors tried to suppress. And yet all these years later, this is the culture that is magically bringing us back together.
Sing it in your heart.
They kept the embers alive, and now it's coming back. These people are trusting us one more time.
You people are my new relatives. I'll take you like my relatives.
We're not in the past anymore. It still hurts, yes, but we're here still so many years later, and we're not going to give up. We're going to not only teach our young ones, but other cultures as well, what goes on in our culture.
I can think back to when my canoe was first formed, and that's when I really got back into my culture. Starting to learn the language, learning to sing and drum and dance, being part of a dance group up north. Who knows where this canoe will take people.
And by the time we leave a few days from now, we feel like we're leaving home.
Now that I'm out here, I just feel like I'm at home.
It's a journey. Journey to find out that you're a human, that we're all pretty much the same.
Every time I drive by this area, I know that I'm welcome here. My hands will go up to them. Can tell my kids later on, or my grandkids later on, is we paddled a journey here before.
What does pulling together mean to you in one word?
Cooperation.
Cooperation.
Chast. Chast means good.
Powerful.
Humanizing.
Togetherness.
Woo!
Skookum Kalitan. My canoe, the one that I sat and worked in for the entire journey, was Skookum Kalitan. It is the canoe owned by the RCMP. No matter what my emotions as I waded into the waters to enter the canoe each morning, it washed those emotions away and brought me back to a constant. The canoe is such a special place, particularly when it takes you so far and experiences so much with you. The constant that I always returned to was one of a calm reassurance, a sense of being in the proper place at the proper time. Skookum Kalitan had a sense of home to it. It had a personality. We had long been told by the indigenous people that a canoe represents community, and that is truly how it felt. No matter what the task at hand, no matter what issues or problems we were leaving on the shore or were waiting for us at the next beach, Skookum Kalitan provided the warm, comfortable feeling of community. So real and intense was the feeling in that canoe, I can only look with eager anticipation to the next time I'll pull it to some distant shore. To this day, I cannot watch videos of that canoe, see photographs of the summer of 1997, or talk of the events of that month without stirring intense emotions within me. Summer of 1997, I kept a journal about the experience. In it, I recalled my last day of the trip when everyone else had left save a few of us to clean up. For the first time in 5 months of training, preparation, and travel, the canoe was finished its job. It had been lifted from the waters of Victoria Harbor and was awaiting its trailer ride back to Vancouver. I awoke early that morning and stepped from my tent to see the canoe on the grass of the campsite. These words are found in my journal, dated day 37, August 4th, 1997. It lay there listing to one side. I could see that there was virtually nothing inside it. There were no water bottles awaiting today's pull. No paddles rested over the seats. No life vests sat waiting for the day. It was empty and lifeless. That friend that had been so alive and vital for 5 months now was lifeless. It was an inanimate thing, not a place of peace and happiness. I turned my head to an empty parking lot and then looked back at the canoe. It hit hard. The image I have painted is in memory and recognition of that friend. It is recognition of an historic time, but most of all, it is truly my emotions on paper. I will forever remember the summer of 1997. I call it the summer of dreams. But most of all, I'll never forget my friend, Skookum Kalitan.